Hi, everyone. Welcome to MarkLogic World 2020. I'm Ken Krupa from MarkLogic. I'm here with Gerry Grenier from IEEE. If you work in technology, you should know about IEEE. They've been around a long time. I love their tagline, advancing technology for humanity. Talk about a mission statement. So, Gerry, welcome. Welcome to MarkLogic World.
Well, great to be here, Ken. Thank you for inviting me to MarkLogic Virtual World 2020. It's always a pleasure to be here and talk about the great things that we're doing at IEEE publishing-wise. Just to expand a bit on that fine introduction about the IEEE, we meet our mission via three channels. We're a membership organization. For those of you who don't know, we're 400,000 electrical engineers and computer scientists who are members in the IEEE. We're a standards organization. So if you use Wi-Fi, 802.11 standard is the thing that drives Wi-Fi. Certainly, most any other electro technology standard, the IEEE is behind that. I'm here today to talk to you about our third point in our mission, and that's publishing, the way we serve our mission. IEEE publishes 150 highly cited journals in electrical engineering and computer science. We sponsor 1,800 conferences and publish the content of that. And all of that adds up to 230,000 scholarly publishing articles annually. And we serve that through a platform called IEEE Explore. So I'm here today to talk about MarkLogic and IEEE Explore and how we've partnered with MarkLogic to help us serve that part of our mission.
Well, that's amazing. I love hearing about numbers because sometimes you get bogged into your day-to-day work, and then you look at the amount of work that you do and that your organization does, and you talked about all the technology that's in use that we're using right now to do this video conference. 230,000 published articles annually. Tell us about what you do with IEEE Explore, and tell us how you got into using MarkLogic.
Yeah, so IEEE Explore, as I said, alluded to, is our flagship publishing product. It is accessed by researchers around the world. We sell access to that via academic institutions, electro technology companies, and the technology stack behind that is has evolved through the years. In 2012, we began to look at MarkLogic, and MarkLogic at the time just offered so many things. We sort of were a bit confused and said, well, what is it? What can it do for us? And as it turns out, it's doing a heck of a lot for us. So initially, when we licensed MarkLogic, we use it as a content repository. So we moved all of our XML into MarkLogic. We have multiple content feeds. I mentioned 1,800 annual conferences. Those 1,800 conferences feed XML content into MarkLogic. So we built this, back-end content repository, and it just served as our, somewhat of a business intelligence tool, but just a comfort zone that all of our content was here. It was backed up, and it was preserved for the ages. Starting in 2018, we decided to use the search capabilities of MarkLogic to drive search in IEEE Explore. So we affected that. We'd gone through 2 or 3 different enterprise search engines beginning in 1999, and went through 2 search engines and finally said, well, let's leverage the power of search in MarkLogic and reduce the complexity in our stack. Reduce that added complexity of another search engine, one other piece in the stack. So we introduced search to IEEE Explore through MarkLogic. And then in 2019, we began to use MarkLogic to facilitate the presentation of landing pages in IEEE Explore, and also building on, we started thinking about recommendations eventually, but we're not quite there yet.
Okay. So, wow, I love the journey because you started using a piece of the capabilities of MarkLogic. You said we got an XML database. It indexes everything. Everything's transactional. You felt that it was a comfortable platform where you didn't have to worry about things getting lost. Then you say, hey, wait, we've got the search capability. It's indexing everything. Simplify the stack. And now you're getting into things like recommendations. And I would imagine that you deal with publishing. There's a lot of things related to context. And so what I'm teeing up here is you're probably doing some things with semantics. Is that a correct assumption, Gerry?
It's a very correct assumption, Ken. Yeah. So once we moved into search and used MarkLogic as search, I think it was about that time that MarkLogic introduced the semantic, RDF capabilities within the product, and so we were intrigued by that. We were looking at building a semantic triple store, looked at a couple of other competitors, and there's a lot of competition out there, to be quite frank. There were a lot of choices that we had, but again, in the interest of reducing complexity in our software stack, we decided to use the semantic capabilities provided by MarkLogic. So we then embarked on a great journey to build a triple store. We partnered with a couple of external vendors and created an ontology, and then built a triple store out of analyzing the facts that are contained within the metadata for 5 million articles that are in IEEE Xplore. So, and we built the relationships around between those 5 million articles. The triple store, Ken, is amazing. It contains 1 billion facts about the content within IEEE Xplore. And we like to say, those of us who champion this project, we're discovering facts that are hiding in plain sight.
Love that.
And some of the things that we set out to do, some of the functionality that we want to put before our researchers are help them answer questions such as, what other researchers have the same interest as me? What institutions are doing the same research as me? Which journal cites my journal the most? How many articles have been written within my institution? And this last fact is pretty important because our customer service and salespeople picked up on that and have begun to use that data as they go and make the value proposition for IEEE Xplore to an institution who's purchasing an annual subscription. How much output is coming out of your institution and going into IEEE Xplore, and what subjects do they cover? So, graphing this data has just been, I just think, a revelation to us. So using the triple store, we're using it two ways, primarily serve functionality to our end users, but also as an internal business intelligence tool. So we're building dashboards around that data to the people within our product development organization that make decisions on, where we go with the next latest and greatest products.
That's very, very intriguing. I mean, I love the quote about finding things hiding in plain sight. And you talk about numbers. So 5 million articles, it sounds like a lot. But then you're like, but there's 1 billion facts in there.
Right.
That's 1 billion machine readable pieces of context that without semantics wouldn't be evident. And that's surfacing things up in plain sight. I absolutely love that. And I'm sure you're probably just getting started with what you can do with that. And you mentioned graphing the metadata and how important metadata is becoming. And that's yet another piece of context. So really love those examples and surfacing it up for what people can actually do with this kind of technology. And then, of course, simplifying the stack. But now you're looking to the cloud, and turns out we've got some capability, a service called DHS, and it looks like you're making that journey, or at least looking into the product. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, Ken. Yeah. So one of the challenges I had in introducing the semantics to upper management at the IEEE has been cost and return on investment, right? Semantics is sort of a, almost an ambiguous thing, and trying to explain it to someone before seeing it had been difficult to me. And the question always asked me was, what's our return on investment? And I kept saying, wait, you'll see it. But I started thinking about, okay, what will this cost for me now to put into production? So we run a big stack of MarkLogic behind IEEE Xplore. I thought that, the best way to move forward would be to, experiment with DHS, take advantage of MarkLogic's DHS offering, for 6 primary reasons. Cost, eliminate any sunk capital investment right now. I just didn't want to spend another, any significant money in licensing costs, machine costs, although we manage the Explore MarkLogic instance in our own AWS cloud. It's still management costs and time costs. Second thing, scalability, flexibility that it offers us. I don't know how popular the Semantics service will become. How do I scale it? How do I build a stack? Well, DHS offers me that simple, put it up there, and as it scales up, no worries. Automatic software upgrades, no need to worry about that. Security, it eliminates some security concerns and costs for us. Data backup, disaster recovery, all of this would have cost me an extraordinary amount of money and would have been harder for me to make my business case for the Semantics server. So what we're doing is running the service in the DHS cloud. It is an active project with the MarkLogic professional services. I believe we're scheduled to launch sometime in the next 8 weeks.
Right.
And then run our Semantics service as an API service to IEEE Xplore that will query the Semantics server for information, as well as we thought about creating products to our end user customer base to access by API the triple store and find those facts that are hiding in plain sight from everybody else.
That's great. I love cost. You started with that. You mentioned a lot of things about reducing friction. And then, it's a safe environment where you not only feel like your data is secure, but you don't have to make that big upfront investment. I love that. It's like, instead of saying, okay, we're going to embark on this project, let's get all the equipment we need or that we think we're going to need, buying to some future peak that is just guesswork. You're like, well, let's just get started. And then on top of it, it's a hybrid architecture you're talking about, which is really great because, you're taking that journey in a stepwise fashion. You're trying out this piece of it. And I think that's exactly what, why people are jumping towards the cloud. So I have to ask you then, and it's a 2-part question, and you could answer it, all at once. It might be one and the same. The first is, so what do you see on the horizon for IEEE? Because you talked about some of the things that might be happening next, but if you went into your crystal ball, what might some of those things be? And then the second is, you're making this cloud journey as you're trying to guess what's on the horizon. What kind of advice could you give to other folks making their cloud journey?
Yeah, sure. So, our next step, as I've explained here, our journey with MarkLogic has been evolutionary, right? So this is just another step in that evolutionary process. So hopefully we'll learn, the pluses and minuses, and I'm hoping there aren't too many minuses of MarkLogic DHS cloud. And eventually the plan is to move that IEEE Xplore stack that's currently running in our own managed cloud to the DHS cloud, MarkLogic managed DHS, and to the advice that I would give to anyone considering DHS, again, going back to the 6 reasons that I mentioned earlier, analyze the cost of doing business today, and what that cost might look like tomorrow if you're in a DHS environment. Is it less than you're paying now? Is it as much? Is it more? So again, back to those 6 reasons: cost, scalability, automatic software upgrades, security, disaster recovery, data backup. just make that careful analysis, and maybe come up with a small project if you're not completely comfortable, and experiment. Create a pilot. Um, Gain some internal support for a greater dive into DHS. If you're if in this day post COVID-19,
Mhm.
watching expenses, move slowly, build a case, and then go on to bigger and better things.
Yeah, no, that is great, and I appreciate that. And you highlighted a number of things that people forget about. You talked about things that people say, "Oh, right, yeah." Then there's backup and all this other stuff.
Right.
But knowing that it's taken care of, and that you can focus on the business problem and just getting things done. And you talked about starting slowly, but in a way, it allows you to get started more quickly by taking a smaller bite, which is an interesting dichotomy there, and it's kind of what people want to do. They don't want to take the big bite, but they want to take a small bite, and they can take that small bite right away, and that's really powerful. And the fact that you're doing it, having done business with us for such a long time, it validates a lot of what we're doing. Because quite frankly, we get these requests from folks like yourself, from you and our other customers. So glad that we're delivering, or we seem to be delivering on the goods. So Gerry, thank you so much for taking the time. Really appreciate those anecdotes. I think we could go on for another hour at least,
Yeah.
and we may just have to do that off camera. That's fine.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, thanks again, and thank all of you for listening. And feel free to take a look at some of the other videos we have, and any other stuff that Gerry's got cooking at IEEE. Thank you very much. Take care, everyone.